Welcome, everybody, to the WrestleZone Weekly Road Report. My name is Joe Dombrowski. Not going to waste any time because this week is my first doubleheader. We're going to profile two up-and-coming rising stars in the sport. Some you may not be totally familiar with, but I guarantee you've crossed paths with them one way or another. First, we're going to talk to a quiet, kind of a shy young kid, but great heart, and a man who went viral about a year ago and change for doing a great deed for a special fan. Let's talk to Ace Perry. Ace, welcome to the segment. How are you feeling?
Thanks for having me. Feeling all right.
Okay, now a lot of people probably may not know this about you, but you actually went viral. It was about a year and a half ago at this point, because you'd met a fan of yours that was a huge Ace Perry fan. And she, I believe, is a special needs individual, right?
Yeah, autistic.
And you actually asked her to go to her prom with you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Take us through what led to you making the decision to do something like that. That's a very bold and kind of out of the box thing, but a very, very caring and heartfelt thing as well that you wouldn't see a lot of people do. So what led to you making the decision to do such a generous extension of yourself for one of your fans?
Well, I've worked with special needs kids before through professional wrestling before Amanda or whatever. And I was doing shows weekly at IWA Mid-South, and she was there every week, and she was there, to meet and greet me at intermission every week, cheering for me every week in every match that I was in. And I had the idea, I knew the high schools were about to have their prom or whatever, and, like I said, I'd worked with special needs kids before, and I really enjoyed doing it. And so I brought the idea to Ian. I was like, hey, what do you think about, after my match, maybe I ask her to her prom or whatever, and he thought it was a great idea, so it's history from there, I guess you could say.
Okay, and how was the prom? Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, it was great. She enjoyed herself as well.
And I think it's great that you, and I haven't known you very long. We've talked in passing over the past several months, but I can tell just from the vibes I get from you, you're a very good-hearted individual. You were raised right, your heart's in the right place. So you didn't do this at all for publicity. And I think, as he shakes his head no, I have to mention that since this is audio. And I think it's important, though, that I think you deserve that recognition. And it was recognition you really didn't receive because you didn't go out and chase it. But I think everybody deserves to know your name, and you deserve to have your name out there. Let's talk about pro wrestling a little bit, and where are some of the promotions you've popped up in over the past number of months, and where are you making waves at right now?
Well, I've been through Rockstar Pro out in Dayton, Ohio, actually. CWF Mid-Atlantic down in North Carolina. I've done some stuff with AAW over in Chicago here and there. Let's see. Beyond, before they started doing live shows, I did a couple of their taping gimmicks. And obviously IWA, and that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
And certainly a lot of smaller promotions as well. You're somewhere every weekend. I know your schedule is pretty insane just from talking to you about it, the little bit we have so far. What should fans expect if they see the name Ace Perry on a poster or on a graphic on a website or on Facebook in an upcoming match near them? What should the fans expect to see if they're going to buy a ticket to see Ace Perry?
A good show, a good performance. I'm not just in this for me, I'm in this for the fans, and that may sound like cliche or whatever, but I'm not blowing smoke when I say that. The fans really do mean a lot to me, and like I said, I not only do this for myself, but I do this for them, and I want to give 110% every time I'm in the ring. Like I said, not just for myself, but for them and the promoter, my opponent, etc.
Well, I mean, you've got a great work ethic, and you're a great athlete, and you really leave it all in the ring. And every match I've seen of yours, no matter how many people were there, no matter what kind of mood they were in, what kind of mood you might have been in, you always seem to put your best foot forward. And I would give the whatever endorsement or bump that matters for me here on WrestleZone.com. I'd certainly recommend Ace Perry to any promoter that would ask me. Where can people find you on social media?
On Twitter and Instagram at Ace Perry Indy, INDY, and on Facebook is just Ace Perry.
Any future aspirations? Anywhere you want to be in 6 months, in a year, in 3 years? Where does Ace Perry go from here?
Man, I have so many goals within professional wrestling. it's hard to just start somewhere. You know what I mean? I have so many. Hopefully, I hope to leave the country here soon.
Not permanently, though, right? I mean,
Yeah, no,
you're gonna
not
come
permanently.
back.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just
yeah.
making sure. I didn't think the interview was that bad that you had to flee the area.
No,
Okay, I hope
no,
not.
no.
But Ace Perry's one of the good ones. He's in the business for the right reasons, and there's a lot of scummy, slimy people around in professional wrestling. But through it all, and through the modicum of success you've got so far, you've kept your head, you've stayed humble, and you're the type of guy who I don't think is going to stand up and tell everybody how good you are. And I think it's important for other people to step up and do that for you, because I think Ace Perry's a name to watch over the next couple of years here in pro wrestling.
Well, I appreciate it, Joe.
Want to thank Ace for his time. Soft-spoken, but very athletically sound in the ring. A great hand, to be sure, and only getting better. My next subject is dubiously known, perhaps, as the very first victim of Nia Jax on Monday Night Raw. Her name is Britt Baker, and she's got a lot to say, being a young athlete coming up in the midst of a women's wrestling revolution. Let's go to my conversation with Britt Baker. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. How we doing?
Now, a lot of fans may know you best as the first victim, am I correct?
I was the first.
The first victim of Nia Jax on Monday Night Raw in Pittsburgh. Now that's a hefty frying pan to be thrown into, so to speak. You're still very young in the business. You're only about a little over a year in, am I correct?
Right, just over a year.
So take us through the whole process just very briefly, as far as your state of mind and how you felt walking into WWE, and what went through your mind when you felt that you were going to have a good opportunity to be on television, and when you finally found out you were. Because you were not the only female competitor there that day, correct?
No, I wasn't. And so anytime you get invited to do extra work, it's obviously exciting. It's an awesome opportunity. You're essentially the backstage of, we're all fans here, so it's like an inside scoop type deal. And so we're all just sitting around, extra work. Usually, especially females, they don't get used ever. You know, males get security guard spots and whatnot. And when I found out 3 hours beforehand, hey, we're gonna use you to debut Nia Jax. She's making her Raw debut. That was kind of like a, what? Oh, okay. Wait, what? And so then I thought, oh, this must be a dark match, or she just to try moves or something. And when they said, no, you're up second, like segment 6, it was definitely baptism by fire. I was like, oh, okay. Well, here we go.
Now, who was your producer in that match?
The agent?
Yes.
Dean Malenko.
Okay, did Dean have any words of wisdom for you before going out there live for the first time?
No, he really didn't. He said our job was we want to make her look like a monster. Mm-hmm. So that was all really that needed to be said.
Well, I think you accomplished that goal,
right.
and she's been going strong ever since. Now, obviously, women in wrestling is a hot button issue right now. It's always been a male-dominated industry, but less so now than ever because of the rise of the revolution on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, and certainly the TNA Knockouts, the Women of Honor, which you have recently been a part of as well.
Right.
How does it feel to be really? Sometimes people are a victim of timing, but you really have timing on your side in the sense that women's wrestling is taken a lot more seriously and looked at a lot more favorably now, more so than maybe ever.
I will be the first to admit, I feel like I've had a lot of being in the right place at the right time, and opportunities are just kind of, I don't want to say luck is on my side, but luck is on my side. But I'm also going to put myself over saying that I'm prepared for the opportunities that have been thrown my way. Obviously, with the women's revolution and everything, the time is now to be an up-and-coming female star that has drive and talent and perseverance, and I definitely think I have all that. So it's a little bit of like I said, being lucky, but also being prepared.
Is there anybody that you especially looked up to in the women's division growing up watching wrestling, or anybody you try to emulate now as you still try to feel out who and what you are as a performer and a character?
Well, growing up, I liked Lita. Lita was my go-to. She was the cool, badass chick. Now, being more involved in the indie scene is actually one of my trainers, Candice LeRae. I absolutely love her. I love her style. She's totally fearless. There's nothing she can't do. I would like to someday, say that I model my wrestling after her. That would be a goal. I actually just wrestled her. It was my dream match, and I got it my first year wrestling, right? So now what? And then as far as like the women's division, all of them, they're all so good. There's no one on the women's roster right now where you look at and you're like, bathroom break. They're just killing it every single match, tearing it up.
do you still find it difficult? Because obviously, you're a woman in a male-dominated industry. Navigating some of the independent wrestling roads, there's a lot of shady individuals. There's a lot of scummy promoters. There's a lot of maybe unfit people that you cross paths with, that we all cross paths with in our time. Has it been harder for you as a woman to kind of navigate those waters and figure out the right people to listen to and not listen to?
I would say I'm definitely, and some people might have an opinion about this, but I'm picky with the bookings I take and whatnot, because I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to be in, like you said, like grimy situations, scary situations. So, when promoters contact you, you definitely got to do like a mini background check and make sure, who works for them, where are they at, are they good for their money, all the above, because the independent wrestling scene, there's a lot of good and there's also equally a lot of bad. So you have to be careful and, like I said, run your background checks.
How have the fans been to you? How have the fans warmed up to you? Have you gotten a lot of feedback and support on social media?
Awesome. Yeah, the Britsburg people are very good to me, and especially since the Raw debut, it was like coming in nonstop, so much support, which essentially I just got a beat down by Nia Jax, and it was flattering, but at the same time very overwhelming. So it was like, oh my gosh, like people actually care about women's wrestling, even if you're just the jobber in Monday Night Raw. So,
well, what do you think the future is, both for Britt Baker specifically, and maybe for women's wrestling in general? I mean, do you see maybe a women's match headlining a pay-per-view someday? Do you see their time and exposure continue to increase as this movement grows on and becomes more of a familiar concept? Is that something that's feasibly possible in the near future? And where do you fit in? Because, Ring of Honor has you on their radar. WWE has you on their radar. You're traveling, pretty much every weekend now. You're getting out there, you're making the most of your opportunities, making the most of your minutes, and forcing people to take notice of you. So what do you think the imminent future holds for you and women's wrestling as a whole?
Well, women's wrestling as a whole, I think it's a matter of time. I think it's months until we have a women's match headlining a pay-per-view. People can say arguably that WrestleMania, this most recent one, the women's three-way, was one of the best matches on the entire card. So to follow that with I don't think you're insulting the fans' intelligence or the fan base or anything by putting a women's match as the headlining main event. And as far as myself, I'm just, I'm going to hope that this good luck doesn't run out anytime soon, and I'm going to keep working hard, and there's some good opportunities in the future, so we'll leave it at that.
All right, where can we find you on social media?
It's social media. Twitter is @RealBrittBaker, and same thing for Instagram, Britt Baker, Real Britt Baker.
Thank you, Britt, for your time, and thank you for listening to the WrestleZone Weekly Radio Road Report. As I almost mess up my own show title, you can find me online at joe-dombrowski.com. All of my social media links and so much more are on there. Merchandising aplenty. You can catch me this weekend, Friday, November 11th at UWL in Barberton, Ohio. And on Saturday, November 12th, I'll be at World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling in Piketon, Ohio. My good friend Bobby Fulton, a major hand in that event. Search for World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling on Facebook. And on Sunday, November 13th, Premier Championship Wrestling, Cleveland, Ohio, where I serve as not just lead announcer, but director of wrestling operations. Going to be a fun time Sunday, 5 p.m. at Turner's Hall in Cleveland. Next week on the Road Report, I'm going to be joined by George South. Some of you young fans may not know the name, but a legendary journeyman from the NWA, WCW, and WWF, and he's very relevant present day. You may not know it, but he's also the trainer of a man who's been tearing it up lately in the Cruiserweight Classic, as well as the Cruiserweight division on Monday Night Raw, that being Cedric Alexander. His trainer, George South, my guest next week here on the WrestleZone Weekly Road Report.